And before you kind of ended up at AT&T, you obviously spent some time like in media and entertainment. So I'd be interested to hear just a little bit about the differences between kind of working at a tech company like AT&T or a more media entertainment focused company such as Warner.
Sure. What I'd say is this. I guess if I'm going to drop any nuggets of advice, this would be my first piece of advice. Whether you're technical or not technical or whatever the hell it is you do, work in an industry you actually enjoy. Uh, People, especially when they come out of college, get very focused on what's my starting salary, how prestigious is this firm, blah blah. But they forget to look at whether the industry you're going into is one that you're actually interested in. And I didn't discover that until I got out of consulting and got into media. And I sort of stumbled into media in a lot of ways, but I really enjoyed it. And who does you're streaming live sporting events like March Madness. You're running technologies that make movies and Harry Potter and all these kinds of things. And it was a blast. And you work harder, you do better when you're interested in the material that you wake up every morning and work on. And most folks' careers are going to be 30, 40 years long. You should enjoy the ride.
I thought a really great piece of advice that you have is be the rabbit at a dog park. And so I was hoping maybe you could touch on, what does that mean exactly from your perspective?
Yeah, I mean, I think that metaphor really gets to when you think about knowledge and you think about companies and you think about particularly successful people and successful companies, um, they have an intellectual curiosity about what they're working on and a desire to learn. And that's being in the rabbit, because the dogs are always going to be chasing you, right? Whatever job you're in, whatever company you're in, they're going to be competitors. And so you've got to just have that desire to learn. And I think another point on, and then I'll touch on the AT&T side, is I basically believe there are two career strategies fundamentally, and one I call horizontal and one I call vertical, and one is not better than the other. They're just two different ways of approaching things.
I was wondering about kind of two things. One is kind of your career advice you've given before, and then also even about AT&T, because I think you touched on it a bit, but just this idea that, the future with 5G is really going to be about having a device, then kind of an edge network, and then having kind of a central core, right? And how all of those have to operate almost in real time and almost in segmented networks themselves.
Yeah, I mean, there's some just truly fascinating stuff that's headed our way, and I would say you got to throw a little generative AI in the middle of this as well. I've been through several AI cycles over the years, and it's not to say that the prior cycles weren't real, but this one is different. This cycle is truly different. In terms of AT&T, it's just for context, there are about six, depending on the day, anywhere between 600 to 800 petabytes of data that are traveling across the network. And so it's an extraordinary amount of data. And that data is all going somewhere. It is literally going to billions of places. And so what you're effectively doing is, what networks essentially are physical infrastructure with intelligent routing to get these massive amounts of information to their destinations. And the way that the world is changing is, and from a networking perspective, is several fold. The number of physical connections that exist is just expanding off the charts, right? I mean, just think when most cars are connected. as an example. You rewind, this is a stat I always, sort of throw out that people still can't fully wrap their head around.
And
Yeah.
so I was wondering, I think it would be beneficial for young professionals to also just better understand where that whole, or how you see that landscape of AR and VR services evolving, and then how you think it might affect the future of work and enabling virtual offices, connections, things like that.
Yeah, so I will say I'm a bit of a skeptic on VR. I'm more bullish on AR. Um, and I also think generative AI is going to play a big role in that as well, for sure. I don't think with the exception of gaming, which is sort of its own bucket, I don't think people want to have this stuff on their head all the time. And I think they want to interact with the world around them. I don't think that they, and I think that there's still just some issues that the industry hasn't resolved in terms of, people get nauseous, their eyes bug out when they have, these things on for really long periods of time. So I'm skeptical that I do think VR will have some use cases for sure, but I'm skeptical that it's uh, that people literally want to keep this stuff on them for hours and hours and hours on end, which I think was part of the vision of a lot of the stuff originally.